What up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about amp placement in a room and why it's important. The first reason amp placement is important is because square rooms like this, big or small, they all resonate. The bigger the room, the lower the resonant frequency the room's going to resonate at. That's going to affect the low end come out of your amp. This particular room likes to resonate at the low E frequency, which is about 82 hertz, and it likes to resonate at the A note as well. In order to compensate for that, you gotta turn your bass knob down. Alright, so we talked about how the room size is gonna affect the resonance of your bass notes. Now let's talk about reverberation. In this room, there's a slight amount of reverberation in here. It's just enough to give it some liveliness, but without making it sound too dead. But when we get out here, you can hear that the reverb is really excessive out here, and it's going to cause a lot of noise issues. Too much reverb in a room is going to muddy up the sound. It's going to turn the cymbals to wash. It's going to turn the bass to mud. It's going to make everything muddy. So you want it to be in a room where it's not too dead. It's not too much reverb. There's just enough. Okay, so we talked about the room and how it affects bass notes. And we talked about reverb. Now we're going to talk about putting the amp on the floor versus a stand or a milk crate. Just like every object on Earth, the floor has a resonant frequency. When you pick up your amp off the floor, you're acoustically decoupling it from it, meaning that your cabinet won't make the floor resonate because it's not on the ground. When you have your cabinet or amp or whatever on the ground, it's gonna make the floor resonate, and it's gonna give you a bass boost, which may or may not, depending on the room, it be good. Set up on the milk crate like this, my amps are less boomy. I can hear myself better, and you will interfere less with the bass player with your guitar amp on a stand. Another thing we should consider is open back cabinets and their placement in the room. My Line 6s are both 3/4 open back, 3/4 closed. Okay. Sound waves, they have a wavelength, let's say from here to here. Okay. Certain frequencies are going to have the wavelength from my amp to that wall, and then it's going to bounce back. Those frequencies are probably most likely not going to be in phase. You'll get a little bit of phasing cancellation with an open back depending on where you put it in the room. Another thing you want to consider before moving your amp is talk to the drummer. My drummer doesn't care. He can hear me good. I'm not too loud with these two amps right here. I like the open back because it allows to throw out some sound out back. The drummer can hear me better, and it fills the room for me a little bit nicer. Also, depending on how far you put your cabinet away from a wall, you'll get different levels of bass reduction. You should get a bass extension at certain points in the room. Another thing to consider is what is the room that you're playing and made out of. Concrete's hard. It reflects sound really well. Wood, it's going to reflect the sound, but at the same time, there's all this stuff in here that's going to diffract the noise out of the room, and it's going to limit the reverb a little bit. We don't want too much, so that's a good thing. If you find your combo amp or whatever too boomy or bassy, try changing positions in the room. Get a milk crate or something to put under the amp, or move it farther away from a wall. Just like your guitar, your strings, your picks, your pedals, your amp, your speakers, everything's going to make a difference on your tone. Whether your cabinet's on the floor, against a wall, on a milk crate, it's all going to change the tone of your guitar. Whether if it's in this room, whether I'm upstairs, the back room, your tone's going to change no matter what. So it's good to know what happens acoustically in different rooms, because then you can know how to combat some of the effects depending on your room. Thanks for watching, guys. That was just a little video on talking about amp placement in a room, where to put it, reverberation. We talked about how close you would like it to the walls, what kind of effects it has on the sound. If it's on the floor, there's so many variables that's going to affect the sound, but it's up to you to take this information and see what it does for you. Put your amp on a stand, get your amp off the floor, move it in a different spot in the room, see what happens, see if you can get a better tone that suits you. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.